Hey, how are you? So we're gonna go into midsummer, really end of summer market report now that we have most of the spring data in, and we'll talk a little bit about what the spring was like, and then of course we'll talk about what we're probably going to see going into the fall and in the winter, and maybe if you hang around, we'll hang around and talk about what happened in the spring. So bottom line is we go to the next page. We're going to try to do it all basically on one slide. Um, we have seen a continuation of what we saw in the early spring, which is that if it's priced right, it's going to move right out the door. Interest rates continue to move up. Um, they're, by recent historical standards, pretty expensive today. Didn't make any difference. Okay, there are still plenty of buyers out there who are looking to get into this housing market. It really hasn't mattered how expensive the houses are or what town they've been in. The inventory comes on. If it's priced right, it moves off. If it's not priced right, it is sitting around. But a lot of times it has to be quite a bit higher. So in some of the lower price towns, we're still seeing prices, really sort of be pushed to the top of their limits and maybe even above where they were last year. So um, just as a note, though, if you want to look for ongoing weakness, a couple of places I look, one of them is rentals. Rentals are up about 50%. The number of active rentals are up about 50% over where we were somewhere between 12 and 18 months ago. I mean, there was nothing to rent during the pandemic either, but those rentals are steadily climbing. So, and ultimately, what that does is eventually it will give people choices between whether they should rent or whether they should buy. So, that should give buyers options about what they end up doing in this market, and that may begin to put some pressure on prices. But I'm not sure we're there yet. So, a little scary is that the total number of single family homes that are actively for sale in Massachusetts is just 4,100. I mean, that is an incredibly low number. I mean, and it's because already all 20,000 houses have already sold. Okay, and so you're looking at a sale to active ratio of 5 to 1. Folks, a balanced market is 1 to 1. A really good market for sellers is 3 to 1. And we're still at 5 to 1, even with interest rates where they are. So, again, the demand remains very, very strong. And that's really what you're seeing. And again, I have in here that prices, if I look at a big enough area, I might see that they're down 1%, maybe 1.5%, but for the most part, that's just flat. I don't really think that there's been any change in what I would call the baseline prices. I think there's a fewer people overpaying by quite a bit, and that's probably where that 1% is coming from, because prices are a little bit more rational, a little bit more orderly. But fundamentally, it still feels to me like everyone's paying the same price. So if you're waiting for those prices to come down, it didn't happen this year, and I got bad news for you. I don't see any relief for you next year either. So with an average days on market of just 20 days, okay, again, normal is about 75. That's still a good market for sellers. It's about 75 days to sell a house. And we are ways from there. Okay. I mean, it's sort of like wake me up when we get to 45 days on market, right? I mean, other than that, it's just constant pressure, constant challenges for buyers that have to rush out there, check out the inventory that weekend, or the next weekend it could be gone, right? And so, sales are down. Okay, if you're watching CNBC or reading other websites, you'll see, well, the number of sales is down, but the problem is the number of listings is down too. So we're not immune from that trend. I mean, so far for the year, sales are down 22%. So, and I actually think as we get through the rest of the year, those numbers are going to increase. I think we're probably going to end up the year down 25%, maybe even as much as 30%. So that's a hunch right now, but I think that the sales are going to continue to dwindle as we push through the year, not increase. I think we've already pushed through the biggest part of the sale market, and there wasn't enough to go around. So I think we're going to continue to see that. Bottom line is that with inventory levels at this level, and the speed at which buyers are still responding to houses that come on the market, it's gonna continue to be very tough to see any sort of price pullback for buyers, which is great for sellers. I mean, sellers who felt like they had to rush to sell last year, it hasn't been the case. They can sell this year. They might have to do a little bit more work to get their house ready than they might have had to do last year, but still, as long as you can get it on the market, you can sell it. So, um, as noted here, I really can't come up with some sort of catalyst that would mean a lot of people would want to sell. So, I mean, if there was a recession, it would have to be pretty serious to get people selling, maybe moving to places where there's more job growth or moving out of state. If you go to the restaurants and sort of just check out the mood and see how everyone's doing, I don't see a recession coming. The restaurants are full, everybody's busy, people are buying at the malls, people are going on vacation, the economy seems very busy. So, maybe there's a recession coming, but it's not obvious right now that it's going to affect Massachusetts a whole bunch. So, and, really when I look forward, I'm pretty sure we're near or done with the interest rate hiking. I think the Fed's going to sit here for a while, and that means there isn't going to be a lot of news about rising interest rates. And those stories, those news stories, they do have an effect on buyer sentiment. It keeps buyers away. But if you take away those news stories, then buyers are going to be more interested in buying. And a lot of the buyers that are coming in now, they don't know how great the rates would have been a year and a half ago. So they're not comparing, the prices versus what they could have gotten 2 years ago. They're comparing the prices and the interest rates with what's been available for the last 6 months. And so they're not nearly as deterred. They're much more positive and optimistic, and they're ready to go. And I just think that that's going to continue, and that it's still going to be pretty tough for. I think there's still going to be plenty of buyers and not enough sellers. So it's a little bit too early to talk about next spring for sellers, but I think it's still going to be very good. But I think the fall will be great too. So if you don't want to chance it, probably get out there this fall. Because there's still plenty of demand. August has been very busy. July was good too. And I think that that's going to roll over all the way up to Thanksgiving. So I hope that answers all your questions. If you like this, don't forget you can go to my YouTube channel and you can like the video and subscribe. I will, of course, answer any questions in the comments that you might have about the housing market or what it is that you're planning to do. But I can't answer the questions if you don't reach out. So feel free to reach out and we'll talk to you next time.